I did find it very hard to trust people.
Yeah.
And not trust like, oh, they're going to take something from me or they're going to sell a story. Like, I don't want to play into any of those tropes, but I found it hard to trust people with my context. So when we talk about like relational stuff, and we spend a lot of time talking about relational stuff, is I don't expect you to understand everything that I'm going through, whether it's an emotional journey, a career journey that is complicated, or family, whatever it is. I don't walk into a room and expect you to have that context if I've never met you.
Yep.
And the difference is, if you live a public life like this, you don't have that option.
Right.
Everyone has this context that you don't get or have.
And they think it's accurate context too.
Correct. Says my best friend. Is like, because you've been there in times where people walk into the room with that context.
Yes.
And then you're just sitting there going,
it's tiring.
it can be tough. But also it fosters an enormous amount of grace and patience that without these experiences and these moments that were, difficult navigating these things at a young age, certainly gave me all the tools to be a person that I think is aware enough to
incredibly,
not walk into the room and assume anything about anybody. So my mother has this conversation with your mom, and they set us up to. So my fear is not, I don't trust this person. I'm not going to share my life with, secrets or like what's going on in my world because they might, No, it's more just, it's too much context.
Yeah, to like
it's exhausting to think about updating you on all this stuff and be like, you still
you
want to hang out?
You up to speed?
Yeah. And do I seem odd? Because that was, my youth was a lot of that. My childhood was like trying to explain to elementary school students why I missed Wednesdays.
Yeah.
And why I came in
late.
2 hours late.
Yeah.
And that was because
I didn't get back to the theater
of the school
yeah.
had a conversation with my parents and said, love what Nicholas is doing and want to continue to encourage him in his craft or whatever. So we'll accommodate his, sort of special needs from a scheduling perspective.
Well, that's awesome.
And then the kids would look at me and he's like,
this jerk.
Third graders were like, do you get paid to do that? And you're just like, God, this is really tough. Anyway, so we meet. I think the story goes that we played basketball the first time together.
That we met. You think
met.
we played? Okay.
Well, I don't have to be right.
No,
I'm willing to be wrong. No. But we didn't have someone like documenting.
No. My only difference, which again, and I don't think anybody has been able to validate this for us, but my first memory was coming over to the house and meeting all of you guys at once.
That very well could be the case.
But we didn't like connect then. It was like
the first time that we hung out and we both remember
fully
connecting.
Fully on the basketball court.
I think was that.
Yeah, it was. You and Phil. Yeah.
Me and Phil and you, yeah.
Yep.
And then it was soon after that it was like another like, hey, you want to hang out? Because I was, just walking around the neighborhood or getting in a golf cart and doing something. And enough of these sort of like by proximity, like hangouts.
Just seeing each other and
was like the first, hey, let's go like hang out.
Yeah.
And we went to do something. I can't remember what it was exactly, but then we were driving through softball. We're like, oh, we're hungry.
Oh, good. You're telling.
We're really hungry. Never told about this story. Never had to. But we're here now. So we're like pulling into the Taco Bell drive-thru.
Roanoke, Texas.
And the guy that's taking our order, we pull up to the window and he sees that it's me.
Nick's just gotten his driver's license. Is very pumped. Like, we're just excited about this fun time. We just played an awesome softball game. Go ahead.
Yeah. And this guy sees it's me and goes, oh, and says some very ignorant stuff, which I'm not going to repeat, but it was incredibly forward about, let's just say, a sexual
your ability to enjoy celebrity.
Yeah. And I just sort of stopped and was like, I said something in response that I'm glad isn't on the internet because I would have sounded like a prude and,
No, you handled it
as if
so
I was
well.
Like running for office or something.
No, look.
Like, you should be ashamed of yourself, young man.
It was of that tone. It was of that tone, but it wasn't even bad what you said, but it was so correct in that I believe you asked for his age and then basically we're like, okay, so you're old enough to not speak that way. It was like the perfect kind way to let someone know they were out of line.
But the funny thing is that he probably was the perfect age to be saying things as ignorant and dumb. Like, I just thought, oh, he's 2 years older than me. He
Right.
should carry himself with more decorum or whatever.
I think though that's a great that's a great initiation of our friendship because I remember that moment very clearly. And while you're having the exchange with him, Nick is like passing over bags of food.
Yes.
And I'm
Of
getting
Taco Bell.
of Taco Bell. And I'm getting a sense of him. And I immediately love that he has called this out because it was like I don't know him this well at this point to be able to jump over and be like, yo, bro, relax. But Nick handles it. There's no need for me to say a word. And I remember looking over being like, oh, this is my dude. Like,
Yeah, we talked about it the day or two later, whatever it was. And I think we were both like, yeah, okay, we're good now. Like
we experienced that.
did that. We're buddies.
Yeah.
And it was, from that point on.
It's true. Obviously, like there are some interesting relational things, dynamic wise, that I feel like are unique to us that I think are fascinating. Nick and I have had the privilege of living in different states near each other. We're in Dallas next to each other. We've been living in New York anywhere's walking distance in New York. So I can say
Correct.
that correctly.
It is to us. To most people, they're like, you walked 112 blocks today?
What was it like?
Like that? Well, before lunch.
Before lunch, and then we got another 100 in. I think it was like a month and a half ago. We got 12 miles in a day or something like that.
That was aggressive.
That was aggressive, and Nick yelled at me
I'm not
several
gonna
different
lie.
times for how fast I walked.
I was dealing with a little stomach thing that day, and
Why didn't you say?
I was nervous.
Well,
Halfway
that's-
through the walk, I was like,
It could be.
because we were on the East River in a very dodgy area.
Now, how did we get to the East River in a dodgy area?
Because I said,
Let's walk this way.
go east. And
Go
we went
east, young man.
Yeah.
Well, had I known that, we would have hopped out of that situation quick,
Yeah.
fast, and in a hurry. Because that's the
was-
worst.
It was dangerous.
New York in general, having to use the bathroom or need any bit of facilities, that's not where you want to be.
No.
Unless you're like Midtown and you kind of have an understanding of where you can
Even
pop
then,
in.
even then.
Even then, it's dicey at best.
Yeah.
Okay, so if we talk about like friendship beginnings, so you correct me if I'm wrong. I feel like the journey of people becoming really close friends is like there are these thresholds, right? You have maybe like a first solo hang. We're riding, we go to Taco Bell, and then it's like, okay, can you come over and meet some of my family and like hang in that vibe? Yeah. And then you have more hangs, and then maybe it's like, okay, you want to go away for New Year's or something like that. It's like there are these different kind of progressions. Oh, I can travel with this person.
It's basically like at the start of any friendship, there are benchmarks of how embarrassing will you be in this environment.
Do you travel well?
Exactly. And you have to make sure that, you're picking a winner.
It's true. It's true.
Because my dad always used to say this. This is, I think, good advice. I still don't really know what it means. It's sort
We
of
could
like
break it down.
like an idiom in that way.
All right. Okay.
It's like when someone shows you who they are, listen.